In my mid-40s, as I said in episode 2, my economic and social life collapsed. I slid from being a notional millionaire to being a pauper in a cell within about 3 years. It prompted a complete rethink of the way I did things. The rather fluffy, secured life, I decided, well, it decided for itself, was not going to be for me. I went back to university. I set out on different travel modes and different continents, and South America and so forth. And by the late 1990s, I was looking seriously at resettling in Britain. And I was, by that stage, immersed in BDSM literature. I had The Leatherman's Guide as the basic tome to turn to. I felt that it was authentic, very American West Coast, but I also knew that it possibly had a universal truth, but I really didn't know how far it or similar things coming out of the American West Coast were valid. I was still custodian of my crumbling, bankrupt estate, and I set up in one of the apartments a BDSM pain studio. Having pored over as much of the literature as possible, I set myself up as a BDSM escort, as a top, who would top subs to their scenes. And in that year of 1999, I topped over 60 subs who came to me after a negotiation, usually done through a contact in a magazine and then over the telephone, about their range of what I call fetishes, not kinks. And they varied enormously in both shape and size, race, religion, and their inclinations. It was actually an education in itself. I bought the equipment, so at the end of the year there wasn't a great deal in terms of profit, but I learned an enormous amount. And during that year, in a rudimentary way, I got onto the internet. And during that time, I met a young 30s gay couple, a teacher and a trainee nurse, who were looking for a top stroke master. And after a very successful first meeting and a month or two of probation, we embarked upon a ménage à trois. And within a year, they'd accepted my collar and become my slaves. This was a relationship that would go on for nearly 5 years and would only be terminated when I left the country in 2005. What did we do? We would meet twice a week. I would stay at their house at weekends. I did things like the garden and things like decorating. neither of which were things that they were able or inclined to do. And the school teacher was our kind of cultural guide. He would organise visits to the cinema and to plays, and books would be discussed, etc. I have to say that 25 years later, we're still in close contact, and now he serves a mistress. But it was a very rich cultural milieu in a BDSM setting. The important thing about this kind of relationship is what's called TPE, transfer power exchange. The master always stays in a distanced position. There could be quite frank exchange of views, but they were never disrespectful. I know that they would, the subs themselves, would have shouting matches, but never in my earshot, and never when we were together.